I'd like to introduce you now. Thank you for being with us so you can answer all those questions. Introduce you to Monsieur Jean-François Rimoux from the Clésia Group. He's the Director of Communication for the group. And so Clésia is a non-profit social insurance group, which includes complementary health and retirement schemes. So would love to, well, I mean, first, of course, you're welcome to introduce Clésia a little bit more, but really what the involvement of Clésia is in digital health, for one, but would love to get your perspective also on this, because well, I'll comment on that afterwards, but please go ahead. Thank you.
Good evening to all. No, I won't bore with you too much with Clésia. We have that particularity in France that to be a non-profit insurance company, and it's the unions and the employers association that rules us. That makes a big difference. The problem with that is that we can only act in France, and it's true that when you see, when I listen to Don, I realize that soon I will call this doctor or something like that, or professor if the telephone is a doctor. So it's, we know we need it for our customers, but we can't think worldwide like other protagonists. You said something really true. In France, we have another exception. Medications are free. Basically, Carte Vitale is the first digital thing that we gave to all the French people. The French people don't know what's the cost of their health. And that's also another problem, because obviously in all those, well, a problem, I don't know, or luck, but it's all those development, at some point somebody has to pay, and we do have a population that's not used to pay.
Yeah.
So that will be one thing. It's almost only in France we've got that kind of problem, so I keep high hopes for all those companies that are developing themselves. Definitely the issue of transformation and digital transformation is at the heart of the insurance company. And I will only speak for myself, not for my company, but from my point of view, I think the insurance company are quite late on that. We have a hard time to go over to see another point of view of the digitalization that is over what's our practical work. Yeah, we did some things on internet or on apps to take some appointment or some geolocalization, but basically that's something that we could already do by other things. So all the apps, or almost all the apps we've developed in our companies are more communication tools, actually, and a way to do publicity. To tell you the truth, the only real thing I've seen in France lately that really changed something, just 3 months old, and it's one of our competitors, AXA not to mention it, that put it on, which actually put a system on that all their customers can reach a doctor 24/7 and have their prescription sent to their pharmacist. So no need to move from home, just to go to the pharmacist to have all those wonderful medication that will be reimbursed by AXA in that case. That's the first thing, really, where I see an evolution in our kind of things. Otherwise, until now, it was pretty much just communication. Now we do realize that we have to move ourselves. We're big companies, insurance, we think a lot, but once we move, we start to move. And it's true that from the last couple of years, whether Clésia or some other companies, we're starting to look at the thing as an investor point of view, or basically how to see how come some startup or some ideas that we can't develop in the house. We don't have neither the inventivity or the skills to do that. We've got a huge computer department, but we're not set up like that. So we start to try to invest for some companies, not to have big financial return, but just to be able to work with them so they help us to change, basically. But even in that, we do have a problem, which is legislations, like sometimes in France, because as we're companies part of the welfare state, our way to invest money is really, really regulated. So the state prefers us to invest in some bonds at 0% than in startups or things like that. So that's also something we're trying to move at the moment. But I think that's where the partnership between insurance and the digitalization will be the most effective in the few next years.
Thank you so much. You had actually given, when we talked earlier, some great statistics also on where does the health insurance sort of world stand with all this. Do you recall those on top of your head? Because those were very interesting.
Yes, I have that.
Yeah.
Only 6% of the insurance sector thinks they start a true digital transformation. So when I'm telling you we're at the beginning,
yeah,
we do actually face it. And which is more funny, you were speaking about big data, which is obviously something that interests the insurance company. Only 21% of us thinks we actually control it and can use it usefully. I'm always surprised when I'm in those kind of reunion that I do a lot because we protect the big farmers company, but also the truck drivers or everything. A lot of professions in France. And every time, at the end, whether it's a car maker, whether it's Boeing, whether it's whoever, at the end, the big bad guy that's going to come up is Google. I don't know if you've noticed, we only have just one competitor nowadays, which is Google. Obviously, on the big data, yeah, that will be. And I think they're taking advance. But that's true that there too, legislation is, I'm not saying that we don't need any legislation, but we have a real big regulation on the privacy of the data of our customers, which we could help them, but we cannot at the moment. So that's all those things that we're going to have to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's astounding, actually, the statistics that he's just named, because truly I don't see how digital health can truly scale, or at least in certain environments and countries, that is to say, without this world actually really jumping on board. So this, I think, is a light on how much work still needs to be done. One of the things that we did, and I'm involved in a few countries, and namely one first project that we started was in Senegal on diabetes, and we did some very simple things to start with, and one of them was to launch a pilot around diabetes and Ramadan. 95% of the population in Senegal is Muslim, and usually people who have diabetes, when they fast, there's a number of complications that arise, and the hospitalization rate usually shoots up during that time. So we did a very simple thing. We just sent 20, I don't know, some like 10 messages before Ramadan, about 15 or 20, simple SMS, and then 10 after. And we're about to publish, actually, I think next quarter, the results on that. And so obviously that sort of brought the hospitalization and the complications rate way down. So we're talking about 1/100th of a cent kind of investment just to get the information out there. With no marginal cost kind of thing, because once you strike a deal with the number of the operators in the country, you can really reach the entire population. So I keep thinking, oh my God, this is golden for an insurance company. I mean, if they can prevent all of these things, and this is just one silly example, because we can go on and on. So to me, the return on investment is clear, and so I'm astounded at a certain level that the insurance world hasn't moved faster. Right?
Obviously, all what keeps the illness to come is good for the insurance. All those companies that invest in healthcare, and if tomorrow, to take an example, we're a big supporter of the ICM Institute in Paris by Professor Saillant, which is working on the brain. A lot of our product today is selling some insurance for an hypothetical Alzheimer, which is normal. That's the thing everybody's afraid at the moment. So we're still an insurance company. We insure people of what they're afraid. Actually, the ICM already made some tests that actually can prevent the people, they could tell today with a reasonable chance of percentage who's going to be touched by Alzheimer. So obviously that interests us, because what we sell today, we won't have to give the money back within 10 years. So obviously the prevention is a big thing. After, we all have our specialty. You were saying that you want, I'm going to be very cynical here. Please stop the camera, but you were saying that your job was to prevent people to go to hospital. Actually, in France, once people are in a hospital, most of the time, that doesn't cost a dime to the insurance. It all goes on the state. So you see, that's more tricky than it could be.
Right.